Well, that goes back quite a long time, as you can imagine. We didn't realise growing up that it was a great-grandfather who wrote it. He was called Tom McGee, and he lived out at Marebridge. And he would have been in that area at that time. He wrote lots of songs, but he was he then moved to Whitecross, which is in County Armagh. And now and again, our father would have broke into an odd song very occasionally, and Made a Balladoo was one of them. And then there was another one about a man going out with about 6 or 7 different women, and I think the chorus was, "I have to stay in on a Sunday night for fear to meet them all," which is, and you recognise the names, it's all in this area. You know, it's all in like Lucy Small and all these other names of families you'd recognise, and some of the names have come down through the generations. So there was a neighbour who was about the same age as our father, and called Malachi Murphy, and we asked him, we just said, Henry, our father, would start singing these songs, and he'd never say where they were from. And he said, "Oh, did you not know?" And I said, "No." He said, "Oh, it was Tom McGee. He was your great-grandfather." So he wrote those many years ago, and he was a bard in the area. So people would have come and asked for songs to be written, or if they had a gripe with somebody, if they had a falling out, then they would get them to pay them to something small, just to write something. And seemingly it was very well known, but we didn't know. But that's how we came about knowing it. And then we asked our father, you know, why did he not tell us? And he couldn't give us a straight answer, to be honest. You know? But he said, yeah, there were Tom McGee's, and then he started to tell us a few other stories about even a local parish priest who came over looking for, you know, something to be made up about somebody, and, you know, all sorts of people, you know, sort of all these, even a limerick, you know, 5 lines just to make up about somebody to get a bit of slagging going on, you know. A better way to deal with things than solicitors, I think. You know, so, but that's what that came of. And I've never learnt the song. I don't know why. I should have, you know, but to my shame, I've never learnt it. I don't know why. I think there's a block in my head, you know, that says, oh, well, I'm not bother learning it then, but I should have learned it, yeah. He was originally from Marebridge, which is in County Down, okay? So Balladoo's just not far from the Balladoo Road. It's just outside Marebridge. And he had a lot of other songs based in around County Down, you know, that he had written. And then whenever he was, his son actually was Pat McGee, and they moved whenever, I think Pat was maybe the main farmer at that time, and Tom McGee was maybe very old, or maybe had passed on, and they moved towards Whitecross. I think he was of brave age, because he was making up things around Whitecross as well, then, you know, where he came from. So, yeah, it would be nice to have had some of his, you know, original writings or something, you know. So, there's not an official list, but I know the songs that whenever we got our father to tell us about a few of the songs, I remember being in Scotland and hearing people singing one of them like away off and somewhere quite remote, and hearing them down south. So they travelled. I think a lot of them are picked up by singers, you know, and then put down as anonymous. But this happened to loads of people, you know. So it was, I think that collectors of songs then probably, you know, took ownership of them. You know what I mean? If there was no owner for them, like I'm sure the likes of the Clancy brothers and, you know, all these sorts of things. You know what I mean? Loads of songs that they'd written were all old songs, and sometimes you can never find out where they came from, unfortunately. But it's nice to have that tie, I suppose. Yeah, it's nice. But my father would have come out with ones, it would have been like short, snappy rhymes about stooking hay and things like this. And as I say, there was nobody collecting them really apart from the singers. You know what I mean? So they fell into the way of singers, and then the next thing, they were just on somebody's collection of songs. There was nothing official, I think, you know, like, so I wouldn't really know that many more, you know. I might know them if I sort of heard them, maybe, you know what I mean? I'd sort of recognise, you know, there's something maybe in a line or two, you know, I'd recognise, I could remember my father singing. But it was very sparse. You'd only come out with these things very rarely, you know, very, very rare. When I was about 4, he had stopped playing music, and I can just remember finding bits of the chanters in the bathroom cabinet and picking them up. And it must have been about the same height as the cabinet, you know, so it was very small. I was picking up these things and looking at them and sort of going, what are these? And but never heard him playing. Apparently he played he had bagpipes up at the local church up here when they were opening the new church up at, no, not Mullavan, this one up here beside us on the main road. Anduff Chapel. The new chapel had been built at that time. So he played at that and would have been fairly well known in Drumhearth. They had a pipe band and yeah, but for some reason then whenever he got to whatever, when I was young, he was probably middle-aged or late middle-aged. He stopped and he didn't take up much interest. Very rarely he'd break into a song. Very, very, very rare. But sometimes, you know, and you'd wonder, you know, why he didn't break into song more often. He could play the harmonica reasonably well, and he could answer a university challenge on Shakespeare better than any of us. And he'd read all Shakespeare by the time he was 13. I remember him sitting watching University Challenge, and the questions were on plays that I was studying at university. So he would have been in his 50s at this stage, and he was answering the questions far quicker than I could, you know, and he hadn't read it for a bit over 40 years. Probably gifted in English, but I'd like to have seen him use it more, or, you know, when he got very old, he would have written little bits of poetry and things like that. You know, you could see there was a spark in him, but that spark should have been probably nurtured when he was younger.
Would he have written songs or anything like that? Or just
yeah, short wee bits and pieces of songs. He'd never, I don't think he ever finished one off. If I'd looking back on it, I should have taken them all and wrapped them up and taken them with me and cherished them even if I did nothing with them, you know, but things were difficult at that time in Northern Ireland. You weren't thinking about how to stay alive, never mind gathering songs. It was rough around 70s. But it was, no, it's just one of them things. He was musical, good at English. Mother, a hard worker, brilliant farmer, but there was no music. No, mother had no music. None of her family. They maybe had one note between them.